Crypto price prediction for today, June 25th. XRP, Avalanche, and Zcash. Hey, welcome back to XRP Future Finance. Today is June 25th, and I want to start with something that most channels won't tell you. Right now, 3 specific coins are sitting at exactly the kind of price levels where the next 24 hours genuinely matter. Not in a vague, anything can happen in crypto way. I mean the RSI numbers, the MACD signals, and the actual dollar levels are lining up in a way that makes today worth paying close attention to. We're talking about XRP, Avalanche, and Zcash. And by the time this video is done, you're going to know exactly what to watch, what price means the bulls are winning, and what price means this recovery is about to fail. Stick around, because the Zcash situation alone has a development coming in late July that most people in this space haven't even heard of yet, and it could change how you think about that coin entirely. Let's get into XRP first, because that's where the most immediate tension is sitting. Yesterday, XRP got dragged down to around the $1 mark during a broader market sell-off. That's a psychologically significant number. When any asset hits a round number like that, you tend to see one of two things happen fast. Either buyers treat it as a discount and pile in, or it fails to hold and confidence breaks down quickly. What we saw yesterday was the first scenario. Buyers showed up, and XRP clawed its way back to around $1.04, and then kept moving. As of today, it's trading close to $1.08. That's actually a meaningful number, 0.8. That's actually a meaningful recovery in a short time frame, and it tells you demand for XRP didn't disappear during the weakness, it was just waiting for a better entry point. Here's what matters right now though. That 1.08 level isn't just where the price happens to be sitting, it's an actual resistance zone, a price where sellers have historically shown up and pushed back against buyers. So the question isn't whether XRP bounced. It did. The question is whether the buyers who came in around 1.00 have enough conviction to push through 1.08 and hold above it. If they do, the next target becomes 1.11, and clearing that level would start shifting the technical picture from cautiously recovering to genuinely bullish. That's the staircase the bulls need to climb, and whether they can take the first step is what today is really about for XRP holders. Now let's look at what the indicators are telling us, because the data here is actually more nuanced than a simple bull or bear call. The RSI for XRP is sitting at 41.03 right now. The RSI scale runs from 0 to 100, and anything between roughly 30 and 70 is considered neutral territory. At 41, XRP isn't oversold, meaning the panic selling hasn't pushed it into bargain territory, but it's also not approaching overbought, so there's genuine room to move higher without the indicators getting stretched. The key thing here is that 41 is higher than where XRP's RSI was at the lows, which means the indicator is improving alongside the price, and that's a healthy sign for the recovery. What's interesting is the split between the different signals. The momentum indicator is actually flashing a buy signal right now, even though its raw reading is barely negative at around negative 0.01. That kind of divergence, where the signal says buy but the value is still just below 0, often shows up right before a price confirms a move higher. It's the market leaning in a direction before it fully commits. At the same time, the MACD is still on a sell signal at negative 0.019, and the bull-bear power reading is also slightly negative at negative 0.023. Those two together are telling you the broader trend hasn't flipped yet. Sellers still have a slight structural edge. The honest read is this: the short-term momentum is improving, but the medium-term trend hasn't confirmed the recovery. That's exactly why 1.08 is so important. It's the line between this is a bounce and this is a real shift. So here are the 3 ways today plays out for XRP. If price pushes through $1.08 and then clears $1.11, the buying pressure builds on itself and the session turns bullish. If XRP stays range-bound between $1.04 and $1.08, it means neither side has won yet, and we wait for the next catalyst. And if the price slips back below $1.04, the recovery starts to look fragile, and that $1.00 support level comes back into the conversation fast. Those are the real boundaries to watch. Everything else is just noise. Now let's talk about Avalanche, and this is where the data actually tells a more encouraging story than XRP. AVAX is currently trading around $6.57, and what's notable here is that the technical indicators are showing a cleaner bullish setup than what we're seeing with XRP. The RSI for Avalanche is at 58.58. Remember, XRP's RSI was 41. AVAX at 58 means the buying pressure is meaningfully stronger right now, but it's still not in overbought territory, so there's runway remaining. That's a meaningful difference between the two coins in terms of where they are in their recovery cycle. The awesome oscillator for AVAX is giving a buy signal at positive 0.10, and the momentum indicator is also on a buy signal at 0.20. Those readings being positive, not just slightly above zero, but actually positive, tell you the momentum behind this recovery has some real weight to it. The MACD is also supporting the move. When you have the RSI trending up, the awesome oscillator positive, momentum positive, and MACD aligned with the trend, that's a reasonably strong technical foundation. The key resistance for Avalanche today sits at $6.70. If buyers can push through that level and hold it, the recovery gains credibility. Support is at $6.49 on the downside, and that's the level that needs to hold. A clean break below 6.49 puts 6.36 back in view, and losing that would put the bears firmly back in control. One thing worth understanding about Avalanche as a network, because context matters when you're watching a coin's price, is that AVAX isn't just a token floating in the wind. It's the fuel for one of the more technically sophisticated blockchain platforms built in the past few years. The Avalanche consensus mechanism achieves transaction finality in roughly 1 second, compared to the several minutes it can take on older proof-of-work chains. And the subnet architecture lets developers build customized blockchain environments without having to start from zero. That's why AVAX attracted a serious ecosystem of DeFi protocols, gaming projects, and institutional-grade applications. At $6.57, you're buying access to all of that at a price that's still a fraction of where the coin has previously traded. Whether that matters for today's price action is a separate question, but it's relevant for understanding why buyers keep showing up at support. Now let's get into Zcash, and I want to spend more time here than most channels do because there's genuinely a lot happening with Zcash right now that the price chart alone doesn't show you. Yesterday, Zcash dropped below $402 and fell all the way to around $388 before buyers stepped in and stopped the decline. That bounce was not small. Going from $388 back into the $402 to $423 range in a single session shows real demand at those lower levels. The question now is whether ZEC can push through $423, because that's the ceiling of the current consolidation range. A clean break above $423 opens up $439 as the next target. Below $402, the $388 support comes back into play. The RSI for ZEC is sitting at 40.96, which is almost identical to where XRP's RSI is right now. That tells you Zcash is in a similar phase. The selling pressure has eased, but the buyers haven't established full control yet. The awesome oscillator is neutral at negative 32.51. That's a large absolute number, but it's the direction that matters, and it's been improving. The indicators are mixed, but they're mixed in a way that suggests the worst of the selling is behind the coin rather than still ahead of it. That's a meaningful distinction, and it's why the $402 level matters so much as a floor today. Here's the part about Zcash that I really want to make sure you don't miss. There's a network upgrade called NU7, short for Network Upgrade 7, scheduled for late July 2026. The team is calling the core improvement Project Tachyon, and what it does is significant. It aims to increase shielded transaction throughput by 300% and cut block times from 75 seconds down to 25 seconds. That's not a minor tweak. Shielded transactions are the privacy-preserving feature that makes ZEC unique. They hide the sender, the receiver, and the transaction amount from the public ledger. The main criticism those transactions have always faced is that they're slow and expensive compared to just sending regular transparent crypto. If NU7 ships successfully and actually delivers those performance improvements, it removes the main practical argument against using ZEC for real privacy. That's the kind of upgrade that can change market perception around a coin. There's also another development that cleaned up a significant overhang for Zcash earlier this year. Back in January, the SEC officially closed a nearly 2-year investigation into the Zcash Foundation without recommending any enforcement action. For a privacy coin that had been sitting under that kind of regulatory cloud, that closure matters. It removes an uncertainty that was keeping some institutional money on the sidelines, And it's not just regulatory clarity. Cypherpunk Technologies publicly disclosed buying roughly 1.4% of the total ZEC supply, and several other institutional players, including funds tied to Arthur Hayes, have increased their ZEC positions. The Zcash Open Development Lab also patched a critical Orchard network vulnerability in June 2026, which demonstrated that the team is on top of security. When you line all of that up, regulatory clarity, institutional accumulation, a major performance upgrade on the horizon, and a price that's found support, the ZEC picture starts looking more interesting than the chart alone suggests. So where does all of this leave us today? Let me give you the honest summary. XRP is recovering but hasn't broken through the resistance that would confirm the trend is changing. The short-term momentum is improving, but the MACD and bull-bear power are still telling you sellers have a structural edge. $1.08 is the number. AVAX is actually showing the strongest technical setup of the three coins right now. The RSI is healthier, multiple indicators are aligned positive, and the coin is holding above support. $6.70 is the target, and $6.49 is the floor to watch. Zcash is the most interesting longer-term story here because the technical setup is similar to XRP, but the fundamental picture is stronger given what's coming with the NU7 upgrade, the cleared SEC investigation, and the growing institutional interest. $423 is the level ZEC needs to reclaim, and $402 is what it needs to stay above. The broader market context matters too. This isn't happening in a vacuum. All three of these coins moved lower yesterday as part of a wider sell-off, and they're all recovering together today. That correlation means if we get another wave of macro selling, all three could face pressure regardless of their individual technical setups. The recoveries here are real, but they're fragile. Today's close will tell us a lot more than the current intraday picture. If XRP closes above $1.08, AVAX holds $6.57 or better, and ZEC stays in its range, then the setup for the next few days looks constructive. If any of those levels fail on the close, the bears haven't finished yet. That's the honest read on June 25th. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure you subscribe to XRP Future Finance and hit the notification bell, because we track these levels daily and the next update could land before the market session is even over. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.